I'm reading out of Return to Elysium. It is a book by Joan Grant. She was a writer of her own far memories. She is here Lucina, 2nd century BC. She grew up until she was 13 very remotely with a very small number, 3 people I think, on a remote island. Now she had been on Elysium, to be mentored by Asclepius. But she is now 17 and she decided to go to Rome. She has gone to Rome with 2 of her companions, and she is now, well, we are here now in chapter 2, and it's the 2nd reading. It's entitled Temple of the Tiber. They're visiting Salonius. He poured snow-chilled wine into silver goblets and handed one to each of us. I give you Lucina, he said, and the 4 of us prosperity and power. Salonius had remarkable energy, even for a Roman, and during the next few days I discovered in him a quality which I admired still more, faith in himself which allowed him to plan without the half-measures dictated by fear of failure. Immediately he had returned from Athens, he had begun to build a small temple on an island which formed part of his estate. But he would not take me to see it until he had convinced himself, by tests similar to those imposed by Asclepius, that my powers were not exaggerated. He told me the delay was caused because he wished me to see it after the portico was completed, but I accepted this evasion as an essential courtesy. The island was oval in shape and had 2 landing stages. One was being used by workmen and would later provide my private way. The other was on the far side of the island, so that the patients could have the illusion of a longer water journey. The approach to you must be sufficiently mysterious to inspire a proper awe, said Salonius. A special boat is being built only large enough for a recumbent figure and a single oarsman. This water is the way to a new life, the crossing of a beneficent Styx. Therefore, we have the white-robed youth instead of the sable ancient, the white boat instead of Charon's dark ferry. Are these trappings required? You seemed satisfied when I worked in your house. You produced admirable results. They could have been attained with less effort in a more appropriate environment. Are the gods really so vain that they demand magnificent buildings in which to receive supplication? Rather, it seems that men pray with greater fever in a setting as remote as possible from their ordinary environment. No one paid due attention to you when you appeared no more than a cultured woman from Greece. You will find the situation entirely different when you are the priestess of a suitable temple. I don't feel like a priestess, at least not like the ones I've seen in Rome. Fortunately, you don't look like them either. Those who are intent on preserving their virginity acquire an artificial holiness which I find most unpleasing. I was delighted when Narcissus mimicked them the other night. The mouth half open, the flowers trailing from the loosely flexed fingers, was a triumph of intelligent observation. And the other kind, the ones who are not intent on virginity? He had been talking lightly, but now he gave me a long, searching glance. Lucina, you would never find happiness in being only a female. I think you may have regretted this. Never regret it again. In life there are certain exceptions to the rule that the lesser is always contained in the greater. You tried to be ordinary, didn't you? Yes, I said, and found a strange relief in this honesty. I tried and failed completely. We are both most fortunate that destiny was stronger than immature ambition. My father wished me to become a consul. For a brief period I passionately desired to please him. Yes, I said softly, I am beginning to realize that we are both most fortunate. Now I could see the temple through a green shade of young oak leaves. There were several old trees on the island, and others had been planted as a grove. The portico had 4 pillars with elaborate capitals, and a pair of massive bronze doors stood open to show the room where I should preside. "You will be enthroned on a dais, like a curtain of thin gaze," said Salonius. "You will notice there are no windows, for a single lamp beside the patient will permit you to watch him while remaining only a dim shape, an oracular voice." Perhaps he thought I was not suitably impressed, for he said almost brusquely, "You and I love power, Lucina. We must always be willing to fight for it." "Power? How shall I use it? How shall we use it?" He put his hand on my arm and swung me around to face him, as a balm for wounds received in childhood, as a shield to protect us from an injury too deep to heal. Life has never been easy for either of us. For what it is worth, I can affirm that I have no allegiance except to myself and my new friends. Why have you been so hurt? As a youth, I believed implicitly in the ties of the family and in the importance of the state. I fell in love with the daughter of a senator, and she with me. But, to my father's extreme displeasure, I had already decided to become a physician. Both families agreed that the alliance would be unsuitable. It was easier for my father to see through the eyes of another pupil of expediency than to remain loyal to his only son. I've never married, and if you consider my advice worthy of consideration, you will also remain free. "I shall never marry," I said, and to my surprise found the words easy. I tried to drown myself because a very commonplace young man didn't want me. Now I'm glad to be only Lucina. Glad. I looked up at him. I think that at last this is really true. I'm very grateful, Salonius. I shall not forget. He realized at once that I was shy at my spontaneous confession. You will notice that the ventilation has been contrived through concealed openings close to the ceiling. Even in high summer the room will remain cool. The heating system is under the floor, far more effective than the old-fashioned braziers. Beyond the archway, which frames the dais, you will find another door. It leads into a smaller room where your robes will be kept and where you can rest. There's also a storeroom for flower vases and anything else you may need. I consider suitable flower arrangement a useful adjunct to the general atmosphere. You sure we need all this? I am not a charlatan. My conception of a realist is someone who understands things as they are, not as he would find it convenient to believe. With free people who can recognize the simplicities, it would not be necessary to destroy a set of false concepts by their appropriate opposite. But Romans are not free. Otherwise they would not require to dominate the world, which, if my reading of the racial character is correct, they will inevitably try to do. And they will fail only when they have destroyed themselves. The tyrant can succeed until he becomes the victim of his own tyranny, or dies, because the last conquest is too dangerous, the conquest of the self. Battery. One of the workmen who was paving the floor with white marble came forward and stood waiting for Salonius to give him permission to speak. "There's a flaw in one of the blocks," he said. "Shall I use a different stone over in the corner where it won't show, or get another? I hear there's a boat in from Corinth, which may have a good enough match." "See the match is exact," said Salonius impatiently. "I ordered material of the first quality." The man looked as though he was going to protest. Then he turned and walked towards one of the boats used by the workmen. "I used free labor because they are usually more skilled," said Salonius, "but slaves might have been more satisfactory. The flaw was probably due to careless cutting. A slave would have guarded against the skin of his back, echoing the flaw with a lash. A temple, which is to give freedom, should not be built by slaves. You still cherish some of the prejudices of Asclepius?" I knew he was annoyed, because it pleased him to sound indulgent. I have been trained to dislike slavery, especially slavery to gods. I thought you told me that gods were not accepted in Elysium. Surely Zeus was not so discourteous as to appear to you uninvited. It was said with a smile, but he was looking at me, though he expected me to recognize an underlying seriousness. I see no preparation for a god in this building. Or do you intend to place some suitable statue above the portico, further to encourage tribute from the faithful? Men have made many images in the pattern of their ignorant morality. Asclepius showed discernment in teaching you to ignore them. He put his hand on my shoulder, and I saw he was strangely moved. Lucina, don't let yourself be deceived because you have seen only the false images. Behind the dark facade, I believe, there are real gods who command the springs of living water. I cannot reach this unpolluted source, yet I know with a certainty more vital than reason that these gods exist and cannot be denied. So the physician is not without faith. I tried to speak lightly, for I knew he was embarrassed by this sudden display of feeling. No one has seen many people die can sincerely believe that death is an end, which is not also a beginning. Birth and death mark revolutions of the wheel, whose circumference is eternity. I'm almost out of battery. So you believe that we are not born as strangers to the planet? I have wanted to ask you that many times, and until now I had not the courage. It was that question which made Asclepius set a barrier against me. I have to hold this here. These need be no barriers between us, Lucina. I am not concerned with the ultimates, only with the here and the now, and if you prefer to believe, as do the Platonists, that you have had an actual physical experience before this century, it seemed a matter for your personal convenience. I'm concerned only with results. But the results depend on whether I have real power or am only an unconscious charlatan. Was Agamemnon really the man whom Damocles tortured? Did the woman from Kos watch a child drown in mud? Did you understand that to me it is of supreme importance to be sure? Our work is to help people to find freedom, and by that freedom to attain mental and physical health. We shall not follow the sterile path taken by too many philosophers, who neglected the immediate necessity and concerned themselves with fruitless speculation. I am content that the woman from Kos had been cured of her asthma. I recently had news of her. She is happy and expects the birth of a child in 4 months. Agamemnon died. Was it because I failed him? A surgeon has not failed if he cuts out a malignant growth, and the patient dies because he was not properly cared for during the normal period of your recuperation. The fault was with Asclepius, not with you. I felt a pang of disloyalty, because I was so grateful for this relief from a long anxiety. Don't try to take too much responsibility, he said gently. Your role is to be the Ariadne who gives the scarlet thread to the labyrinth. When you have discovered the source of a disease, the patient himself must slay his minotaur. How can I be an Adriane if I don't know whether there is a real past in which to search for the thread? The thread always leads from the center. There is no inhabitant of a personal hell whose character does not contain the essential clue. But I knew nothing about the character of the rich man who thought he was going to starve. I knew nothing about any of them. Don't you believe when I told you? I believe it implicitly, The results are proof of the validity of the process. In my own work, I have had ample evidence that the physical is not the only realm. Health or disease, sanity or madness are no more than symptoms of the way an individual has reacted to various types of experience. If one can cause someone to mobilize all his resources, he will emerge the victor in any battle, interior or exterior. Now you see the relevance of Ariadne. Bring the Minotaur into sight and you discover the hero to kill it. Perhaps, if I have sufficient faith in myself. What is your faith, Salonius? The belief in what I should be, which in time will become the certainty of what I am. The last of the workmen had left the island. Through the open door I could see the calm river. The evening sun gilded the white walls of the room. You will work here, Lucina, work for yourself and for me, and for something much greater than either of us, which as yet we can only dimly comprehend. The stage is set, but you have forgotten to teach the chief actor her lines. Even Euripides never expected me to write the play for him. You will know the lines. A scribe will record them. She is a Greek slave I bought several years ago. Her name is Iris, and I think you will find her efficient. The patient will take a dream drink, but less strong than the one used for your early experiments. Sometimes it may only be necessary for the patient to talk without restraint. That is why I have emphasized that you are more goddess than woman. One is not embarrassed by being truthful to divinity. Why not make them drunk? In wine, men are not particular as to the audience of their confidences. You underrate your Roman heads. Nobody attends many banquets without learning to guard his tongue, or else how to free the belly of such a dangerous guest. My role as a priestess does not sound very exciting, and any skilled scribe would be better equipped to record the confessions of men in a stupor. A scribe would not be able to ask the relevant questions. Your chief role, Lucina, is to enter as a fully conscious personality into the realm of your patient's fantasy. It will be as real to you as it is to him. I believe that by your special faculty you can destroy the destructive thought sequence and substitute another which will provide the vital stimulus to freedom. And if I encounter another cat of bast, we will destroy that too. You will never be in danger unless the patient's essential character is stronger than every resource available to you. I consider this so unlikely that the possibility need not be considered. This was small consolation. It was only too obvious that Salonius had never encountered Bast or any other concretion of evil which might prove stronger than any single personality. He believed in real gods, but only those who were benign. Yet he said that all things must have their opposites. It would be useless to try to explain to him that I knew the danger was real, for if he believed it, he might try to stop me using my faculty, as Asclepius had done. I asked to be allowed to work towards further knowledge. It was much too late to regret that I had found the way.